Down the river, look to your left. I meant to your right, haha. Freaking Eric. So, this film has been a pain in my ass for nearly a year now. I found this movie, alongside many other people, through very regrettable means. The Lemon Demon song Ivanushka. Worst mistake of my life. You also could have found this movie through Mystery Science Theater 3000, but you know, that's neither here nor there. Regardless of how I found it, I actually find this film really interesting, not because of the song, but because it's, In
the end it won't help. I can always use witchcraft. Far as far as far.
It's a bit odd. I've been trying to put how I feel about this Russian piece of film into words for almost a year now, but finally, it's time. So let's do this together. But first, a bit of history. You thought I was gonna say sponsors, didn't you, you dumb fuck? Morozko, also known as Jack Frost, is a Soviet romantic fantasy film directed by Alexander Rowe. It was based on a traditional Russian fairy tale named Morozko. The script was written by Nikolai Erdman, which is one of the coolest names ever. It's just so fun to say. Nikolai. 36 years later, and the Russian Cinema Council, also known as Ruscico, probably said that wrong, released a DVD version of the film. Which is not what I have. To get this episode out on time, I had to order a less than ideal version of the film. I wanted to buy Morozko, but then I would have had to wait until January to get it, so yeah, no. So instead, I got Jack Frost, released by Hansabar Films, a company originating in London and was incorporated on the 17th of September 2001. And then the company got dissolved 3 years later! Regardless, it's still the Ruscico version, having the same branding and all of them amazing bonus features, which, don't worry, we will get to later. Despite this film being an hour and 18 minutes long, they fit both a lot and not a lot of story in. It's kind of hard to explain. For context, the character Ivan goes on a character arc that lasts about 20 minutes, Nastinka's development is that she's pretty and her sister isn't, and Jack Frost, the character that the film is named after and based on, doesn't show up until 50 minutes in! So yeah, the film is a bit weird, but it doesn't stop it from being pretty interesting. My favourite aspect of the film is the fantasy. 3 minutes in, and Nastinka, one of our main characters, is already talking to the sun? Or the aspect of the morning? Dawn. She calls it Dawn. Nastinka talks to Dawn to put the sun back down as she finishes knitting her sister new socks so her mother doesn't hurt her. And then it works! Time travel, dude. I'm just gonna ask the sun to go back down so I can get 10 more minutes in. Not 10 minutes later, and another character, Ivan, is playing hide and seek with a magical mushroom man. 5 more minutes, and that same mushroom man turns Ivan into a bear for not saying a simple thank you. The film really got me hooked in the fantasy elements around the second half, when Ivan and a witch are ordering a house with giant chicken legs to face one another. Don't get me wrong, other films did fantasy better without even trying, but I find the fantasy this film does have really interesting. Second thing I love about this film? Dialogue. Does this film have good dialogue? I'd say it's passable. However, playing into the fantasy elements, there's a lot of rhymes and riddles interjected into the dialogue, which you'd think would rip you right out of the scene, but it actually feels really natural. Almost natural in its unnaturality. Almost like a pantomime? For those who don't know, a pantomime is basically just a musical stage comedy. As a kid, I saw a lot of these things when my parents were no longer bothered to deal with the little shit that was myself. However, even as a kid, I hated these things. I specifically remember watching a pantomime in a small room with about 9 other kids where my dad's old job had a family fun day, and I remember hating every second of it. The actors were annoying, the singing was bad, and every other kid around me was super into it apart from me. Maybe it was because I just found it stupid, or maybe it was because my brother hit me with a golf club in the head 3 hours prior, but either way, I was not having a good time. Regardless of that, I actually like the pantomime vibe in this film. It's really well done and shows the world off in unique ways. You know what isn't well done? Pacing. Oh god, I'm out of shape. So yeah, the pacing has some issues. Again, the character this film is named after and based on isn't important or even mentioned until 50 minutes in. The romance plot starts around the 22-minute mark, but is instantly replaced by Ivan turning into a bear. That plot then takes up 20 minutes to wrap up, and then we take another 20 minutes to wrap up the romance plot. All in all, that means that Ivan and Nastinka spend about 40 minutes of the movie getting to know one another before they get married. Except no, they don't. Before Ivan gets turned into a bear, the two talk for about 2 minutes, and already Ivan has asked Nastinka to marry him. Pacing! After he gets turned into a bear, he calls her a witch and then leaves. So they don't talk at all while Ivan is trying to reverse the spell. That's fine though. Surely in the last 20 minutes of this plot will they get the opportunity to talk, sit down, go on a date, smell the flowers, get a bit fruity.
Get it?
Whoever touches my scepter will never wake up again.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes is Ivan looking for Nastinka, Nastinka freezing her ass off, and Jack Frost killing off the local bird population. After touching Jack Frost's magic scepter and freezing to death, Ivan, the man that talked to her for 2 minutes and then called her a witch, walks up to her and says, "Please ma'am, forgive me," and then she unfreezes, and then they get f***ing married instantly after! Pacing! But there is still 14 minutes left of the film at this point, and considering that they fit all that into an hour and 5 so far, surely there's something else they could add on to. Nope, not really. The two get ambushed by the witch, Nastinka's sister goes to the woods to find her own husband and fails, and... Wait, actually, can we quickly talk about that? When it comes to Ivan as a character, the lesson is obvious from the very beginning. Just be a decent human being. But Nastinka's whole story has little to nothing to say. Nastinka is rejected and insulted by her stepmother throughout the film simply because she's prettier than her stepsister. Now, obviously being neglected due to looks is stupid no matter what side of the fence you're on, but is this lesson not supposed to be the other way around? At the end of the film, Mafusha, the sister, gets ridiculed by her town for being ugly as f***. So, what's the moral of the story here? Ugly people are evil and don't deserve happiness? Because that hits a bit too close to home. Anyway. The only thing that's just as crazy as the writing is the editing. And oh my god, does this editing get interesting. Why have your dog walk back into the doghouse when he can just reverse into it? Same as the snow being put on trees or the cat sneaking back behind a chest. If anything could take me out of a scene, it's this. Now, to be fair, 1964 didn't exactly have a copy of Adobe Premiere or Final Cut on deck. Not even Windows Movie Maker, apparently. Poor bastards. But could they not have done anything? I know it was easier said than done back then, but how hard is it to get another take of the dog walking back into the house? Or this cat walking back down the steps? Now, I won't spend my entire time on this segment bitching. While the pacing of the story is really off, the pacing of the editing is actually pretty good. I found very little awkward pauses or anything, and it's generally just well done. It's just the fact that some of these shots don't have extra takes to accommodate for, well, the script. It doesn't mean the editing is all perfect though, as I found some scenes where objects pop in frame to be really funny. Look at the sleigh, dude, it just spins in! Same with Ivan turning back from being a bear, he just spins to win. Though, I do admittedly find it a bit charming, as cheesy as it looks. So, I'm gonna be honest, I love the sound design in this film. Is it good? No. But is it adorable and funny as hell? Yes! I don't know why, but whenever this little bell sound effect plays, and oh god, does it play a lot, I can't help but crack a smile.
He's a thing.
Look at him run and tap his little head and the bell sound effect, and oh my god, I'm easy to impress. But it's not just the bell, it's everything. Arrows being fired have an over-exaggerated twang. The bears are voiced by people and it's painfully obvious. And talking about bears, I love how when Ivan is transformed into a bear, he now has a slightly grislier tone to his voice thanks to the sound designers. I have similar feelings towards the music. No, the composition isn't complex and the audio quality has aged about as well as A Snowman in July, but the whole soundtrack gives me a strong fantasy winter vibe that fits the film so damn well. Would I add any of these to my playlist and jam to it? Maybe to my work playlist, but only one or two, and that's purely just for background noise. Another thing I adore about the music, though, is a recurring motif of Ivanushka's song. You hear it for the first time only a few minutes in, and then again before Ivanushka frees Nastenka from the frost. And I don't know, it's just kinda neat. Regardless, the whole sound department gets a thumbs up from me. The acting in this film is good for the most part. Ivanushka, played by Edward Isotov, probably not saying that right, did a really good job playing the role. Ivan's being a smug prick. Edward ensures that the character has the biggest shit-eating grin on. Now he's showing genuine emotion? Well, he did a pretty convincing job. He put a lot of energy into the character and was always a really high point of the film for me. Kudos. Similarly, Natalia did an equally amazing job. The character only really shows two emotions throughout the entire film, happy and not happy, but she shows said emotions really well. I especially love her acting in the first half of the film when she has a lot more dialogue. Not much else to say, though, to be honest. The final cast member to talk about is my favorite. Alexander as Jack Frost. I love Jack Frost in this. Alexander paints such a cartoony picture of this character. I showed it before, but look at him go! He bounds! His movement is exaggerated at times, painting him as nothing more than a jolly man, and God bless the sound design in his character. However, when a scene calls for a down-to-earth man to support another character, Alexander delivers. He's so sweet and caring and oh my god, I love this guy. He's great, so why the f*** do we only get 30 minutes of him? Usually I don't cover bonus features on reviews like this, but I need to talk about this DVD for a second because I love this thing. This release is chock full of bonus features, some of which I actually haven't seen in other physical releases before. You've got your basics, the trailer for the film, trailers for other films by the distributor, etc. But then you get some stuff you either don't see much or rarely ever see. The musical segments are here in their entirety with a really cute looking interface too. If you're interested in characters or items, there's a whole digital museum on the disc going more in depth about the origins or abilities the things in the film can possess. The witch is called Baba Yaga and she lives in a house literally called the Hut on Chicken Legs. Amazing. And I found that out all through the digital museum. And the coolest thing to me, a list of every production the writers, actors, and director had previously worked on. Maybe this is more common than I think, but I rarely see this, and I think it's a really freaking cool addition. Especially for such an old film with old crew and cast members, it's nice to have a concrete filmography that I can at the very least acknowledge and search up later. Wait, what's that? It doesn't include commentary?
Oh hey, someone to talk to. So, what you up to?
Какой-то патенчики му так просил меня вимосо не виведро.
What?
Well, I've been waiting to make this episode for nearly a whole year now, and it's finally come to fruition. And you know what? Good film. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but considering this was actually made for kids in the first place, you could do a lot worse. Illumination, I am looking at you. The story is fun, the characters are a little bit bland, but it's enough to get through an hour and 18 minutes, and the film is still genuinely well made, despite the odd editing choices. Maybe a year is a little bit too long to get to a conclusion like that, but you know what? I think it was all worth it in the end. Wow though, that's really crazy to think about. I've been making this series for nearly a whole year now. In fact, as I'm filming this video right now, past me was probably stressing out about the editing because, let me tell you what, that first episode was a pain to go through. And then it got easier, and then it got a little bit harder again, and then it got easier again. We had a few issues with copyright, deadlines, and audience reception, but you know what, at the end of the day, this whole series so far has just been really fun to make. And that's what I think this film is. It's just fun. Thanks for tuning into this season, everybody. See you next time, and I'm gonna go watch some more films.